Hey, good afternoon. Um, to answer that question, we have to look at the personalities of both candidates and we have to look at their administrations and what they've done previously. Well, if we have a Trump victory, there will be significant changes in U.S. foreign policy and relations vis-a-vis the U.S. in Iraq and the Middle East. With a election of Kamala Harris, we would most likely see a continuation of the current administration's policy, U.S. foreign relations. And if we have a Trump victory, or as we predict a Trump victory, we would see these manifest in certain ways. Number one, with regard to President Trump and his dealing with foreign relations, a very hands on approach where his anti Iranian stance would have a direct impact on the relations within Iraq and in the region. As we've seen in the past, U.S. foreign policy under Trump vis-a-vis Iran was very hard line, and we could estimate to see the same posture. Impose sanctions, designating the IRGC as a terrorist organization, and we could see a continuation of that. What would be interesting to see is U.S. foreign policy under a new administration, Secretary of State, ambassador, and how that impacts the U.S. relations and Trump's attitudes and beliefs towards Iraq and the yes, U.S. public opinion. There's a significant change in public opinion between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. The differences between Trump and Kamala Harris are there's several, but I would say that with regard to foreign policy, that Kamala Harris's inability to have any impact on the border crisis and really not many accomplishments during her tenure as vice president, I think public opinion would be swayed to supporting Trump more than Kamala Harris with regard to foreign policy. If Trump is reelected, I cannot foretell what is actually going to happen, but I can, based upon what he's done in the past and what his policy is vis-a-vis the Middle East, we can expect that he will continue to have a hardline stance against Iran, and that will have implications for Iraq and Kurdistan. With regard to Kurdistan, he hasn't really supported the Kurds in their efforts and really aligned more with Turkey and Erdogan. We can expect to see the same thing happening under the new administration. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that Kurdistan has always taken a backseat to Iraq and Iran. That's the main focus of the administration and Trump's main focus. And we would hope that President Trump, aligns with Kurdistan and supports the Kurds. But what we've seen in the past is his efforts and focus have been more on Iraq and Iran than Kurdistan. I think you'll see some changes, but the main issue will continue to be the future of the military presence, and that's the main issue with regard to financial issues and matters. I think there will be some small changes or slight changes, but the focus will continue to be on the military presence in the three bases. I don't see any immediate changes via U.S. policy towards Syria. I believe there's going to be a time where the new administration needs to understand the problem set, and then at that point they'll be able to, either implement a new policy or continue with the existing policy. I truly believe with President Trump's victory that there will be a de-escalation in conflict in the Middle East region. President Trump has made it very clear that he intends to end the Ukraine war and that support for Israel will continue. However, under the new administration, I believe that Israel will curtail some of its operations and there will be a reduction in military operations outside of the current conflict between Hamas and Israel and in Ukraine. No, I truly believe, and last time I was interviewed, I talked about there would be no significant changes after the meeting between President Biden and the Prime Minister of Sudan. The foreign policy matters will remain the same. There will be no significant changes with relations vis-a-vis Kurdistan, which is unfortunate because it leaves Kurdistan, under the thumb of Iraq and dealing with its relations with Turkey. I do not believe there will be any major changes in policy or relations vis-a-vis U.S. Kurdistan under the new Trump administration. The focus is clearly has been and will continue to be on Iran and Iraq and other larger players within the region. I truly believe that President Trump will continue to look for U.S. troop presence to be reduced in Iraq and in the region. Whether or not that will have an impact on Iraq's internal security and a resurgence of ISIS, I cannot determine. I believe that is a question that is better posed for Iraqi security officials to determine whether or not they have the wherewithal to prevent a return or resurgence of ISIS.